All right, let's talk about words. A guy that uses words really well in this country. He does it really well in songs, and he does it really well in his interviews as well. It's our friend Matthew Good. Matthew Good has a lot to talk about. Very excited to have him on the program. Here's his story.
George, if you want to talk about the Vancouver music scene, impossible to have that conversation without bringing up Matthew Good.
Here by my side, it's heaven.
Born and raised in the suburbs of Vancouver, Matt started out as a folk singer, but he hated it. So in 1995, he plugged in his guitar and formed the Matthew Good Band. They ended up one of Canada's hottest bands and snagged a couple of Juno Awards. But Matt boycotted the show, saying he didn't need a statue to validate his work.
I don't know, and awards have never really just meant a lot to me. They would probably mean more people voted for them.
And that's the other thing about Matt. He speaks his mind, whether it's about award shows, human rights, or why he thinks the Vancouver Olympics are a total waste of money. But back to the music. By 2002, the Matthew Good Band broke up, and Matt started a successful solo career.
Here it comes, and there it goes, another day decomposing.
In all, he's released 5 solo albums and isn't afraid to get personal in his songs. Back in 2006, his marriage fell apart. He overdosed on the anti-anxiety drug Ativan, underwent psychotherapy, and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. After all that, he released an album about his experience called Hospital Music. His latest CD deals with something else personal, his hometown, and it's called, appropriately, Vancouver.
Matthew Good. You're battling a cold or something, right? How are you feeling, buddy?
You know, I got 3 days left.
3 days left to live?
3 days. Well, you never know, you know, but 3 days left on the tour, so.
And then you get to go home for the holidays.
Yeah, well, I did pretty good. I lasted 2 months without getting anything.
What, do you got, a flu or something? Swine flu?
Yeah, just like, no, it's like a head cold and sinus stuff.
Get some Purell up here, please.
Awesome.
No, I'm just kidding.
I told you not to touch me earlier, so.
Welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me.
Is this a love letter to Vancouver?
It's just a record. Really, I mean, you know, you live somewhere for long enough. I mean, I lived in the downtown core of Vancouver for like just over 15 years and stuff, so a lot of it's really just introspection with regards to that time. I mean, there's some direct commentary about the, you know, the socio-political realities with regards to the, you know, the dichotomy of the city, but, you know, I didn't really want to have it be just overt. That wasn't really my goal from the, you know, from the get-go.
Some artists don't have, you know, you can, especially a guy like you who's, I mean, you're an actual proper songwriter, so if you, when you start to go through the process, the songs sort of take over eventually.
Oh yeah, well, you know, anything musically, right? I mean, it's like, I guess when it comes to an album like that, you know, when you decided to call it something before you've written any of the music on it, you know, things hit you. Kind of like wind passing through cloth or something like that, and you grab what you can grab, right? You know, of that the idyllic, you know, version of it in your head, and you get as close as, you know, as you can. I think in my life, maybe I've got as close as 55% of that initial, you know, impact in my head, and then, you know, from there you have the choice of kind of truly representing it or forming it to fit an idea that you have with regards to the context of a record. And, you know, in certain records I've done that, and this would be one of them.
And I mean, that period that you lived there, some of the highest highs in your life and some of the lowest lows.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now? I mean, and the reason I ask is last time you were on our show, you were very upfront about what you were battling, dealing with bipolar and the medication.
Good, I'm fine, yeah.
It's been a few years now. Is this something you settled into? You got a different relationship with?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's, you know, it's a daily thing. You deal with it on a daily basis. I mean, that's mental illness, right? But, you know, with the proper medication and that sort of thing. I mean, I would hate to be bipolar and a Scientologist at the same time. Get stuck in a room with Tom Cruise yelling at me.
He'd be coaching. He'd be coaching.
Would he be coaching and not yelling?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think he's yeller. You talk about the Vancouver stuff, though, and the fact that you're very public about what you believe. I follow your blog. The Van Ock thing, the Vancouver Whistler Olympic Games are coming. Let me guess, they didn't ask you to carry the torch?
No, I voted against the Olympics when Mayor Campbell held the vote. I mean, that was one thing that he wanted to make sure happened, and that was quite a while ago. And you have to remember that when the vote was held for the Olympics, it was only held within the city of Vancouver itself. So, for example, if you know Vancouver at all, if you lived on the one side of Boundary Road, which is in Vancouver, you voted, and if you lived in Burnaby on the other side, you didn't. Right. And we're talking about in excess of $6 billion now. In debt, and you know, a lot of people in the you know, in the Van camp are trying to basically pass it off as it being it's going to be lucrative enough to repay that, and we're going to be in debt for decades. And the people in Kitimat and Powell River and everywhere else in the province who are not going to get anywhere near an Olympic venue are going to pay for it. You know, and we're also talking about a province in which we have the highest child poverty rate in the country. You know, so I'd really like those people in Vancouver to maybe go up to a school somewhere in the interior and tell those kids, well, you know, sorry, we really couldn't buy computers for your classroom because we were too, you know, busy trying to real estate speculate with regards to the Olympic Village privately because of the real estate boom, even though it's gone to crap now.
You sometimes feel like it's I mean, intellectually and emotionally, it sometimes feels like a losing battle because the stuff that seems to make the most sense usually is in contradiction to what governments and corporate interests are.
I mean, you know, one of the greatest examples of that probably is Dwight Eisenhower. You know, I mean, if you look at Eisenhower's administration with regards to his foreign policy, especially covert foreign policy, a lot of really bad things happened during his administration. You have the Mossadegh thing in Iran. You know, you have Arbenz in Guatemala. But yet, at the same time, he gave public speeches about, talking in context of, well, for the price of one modern aircraft carrier, how many hospitals could we build? Right. How many schools could we build?
It just speaks to bullshit. That's what it is.
Exactly, right? It's a rotating thing, and it's the same thing with regards to the Olympics and the arts community. You know, they talk a lot about how it's going to help bolster the Canadian arts and the rest of it. I mean, and of course, recently, the contract that artists have to sign was leaked. And, you know, while you sign this contract, you're not allowed to say anything disparaging about the Olympics, about Vancouver, about anything. They strip you of that right completely if you decide to play. And there are some people that are playing that I can't believe would ever sign something like that. Some like Steve Earle.
He's playing that?
Yeah, and I can't believe that Steve Earle would ever sign something like that willingly. Or Wilco, for that matter.
I suspect you're getting paid. Or you get inside and you try to change from within.
Well, yeah, but how do you do that realistically in the context of a 2-week or 3-week event? I mean, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the Lower East Side. I mean, you know, the only thing that's going to change the Lower East Side is the fact that, you know, our city is on a peninsula and we have nowhere else to property speculate. So the gold mine lies on the Lower East Side and pushing everyone further east down the Hastings corridor and developing that area, which has already happened. The gentrification of that area has already begun, you know, and it was ushered in, you know, with the Gastown Business Association hiring a private security firm to shove people into back alleys so that tourists coming off cruise ships didn't have to look at them. And of course they have no legal authority to do it. And then, you know, subsequently with the Olympics coming up, we've passed fantastic laws such as they can arrest you if it's too cold out and you happen to be homeless.
I love this.
And put you in jail overnight, you know?
Because we got them going, here's what we've done. Pulled a bunch of publications, going to pick some big news stories, and get Matt Good to comment on them all. We got the big ones in here. That's next on the hour. How do you balance economy with environmental concerns?
I have a really kind of bizarre philosophical view with regards to it. I think that we're pretty much a parasitic species on this planet. We do nothing. We destroy. So our time will come.